Hello, 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 and welcome to another Tuesday here at the Progress Report. I'm your host, Dion Sage, and can I say it's so great to be here. Unfortunately, today it's not the kind of the show that we advertise. Had to do a little mix-up, schedules have changed, and things like that, and I take full responsibility because I work with this team day in and day out. We work really hard, try to put on a good show, but sometimes someone fumbles the ball, and it was me. I tried to quarterback it, and I turned into Cam Newton, I guess. But oh well, it happens. Um, anyway, moving on, but we do have a great show. I'm pleased to announce that I have Harrison Tuttle back. I had a great conversation with that young man the last time he was here, and we have someone else. I love to meet new people. Mr. Miguel Sanchez. Here, he was highly recommended from Corey Jones. Unfortunately, Corey Jones and Tiara Matt could not be here with us tonight, but it's okay. And my friend Izzy sends his best regards. But with all that said, did you hear about this announcer who supposedly had a diabetes attack when he called female basketball players black, who decided to take a knee during the national anthem, decided to call them niggers? He was on there as an announcer announcing the game and called these girls because they took a knee, called them niggers. Yes, I'm going to say the word, and I'm sorry if you cringe when I say it, but I'm going to say it because that's what he said. I'm not gonna say N word. And if you cringe when I said it, then you should cringe when he said it. Don't allow anybody to take this sorry excuse that it was because of the fact that my sugar was low and I'm type 1 diabetes. Well, let me just tell you something. I have grandparents who have diabetes. I ain't never heard them say some racist stuff when their sugar gets low. Yeah, they get a little mean and get a little feisty, and we give them a cookie and they go away. But the point of the matter is, how how dare you? How dare you? These young ladies played their hearts out a 19-0 season, and because they took a knee in solidarity with black player athletes all around the globe and all around the country, and taking a knee while the national anthem is being played to exercise their First Amendment right, who the hell do you think you are, you racist son of a bitch? Yeah, I'm gonna say it because those are somebody's babies. I looked at them young ladies and I saw my little cousins, my little female cousins, and all the young little ladies that are black that play sports in my neighborhood. And if somebody would have said something like that, you damn Skippy, I'm gonna say that. Sorry about my language to some of y'all out there, but I was really alarmed when I seen that. And you know who another one that got me really upset this week? That Marjorie Taylor Greene lady. Can somebody please give her a pie, one of them pies from the help? Like seriously, I think somebody needs to call Miss Minnie, and she gonna need one of them good old pies to eat. Maybe she have 1 or 2 slices of that pie, because like seriously, how dare you call my state, my U.S. my representative that represents my district in Rhode Island? And no, I may not think he's the best, but don't talk about my rep this way. How dare you call him Rep Mussolini? Last time I checked, I don't think Mussolini would have liked the gay Jewish person. And quite frankly, I'm tired of Marjorie Taylor Greene. So I need for everybody that's in the 13th district in Georgia, get together and please make her a one-term. And I also have seen down the line that somewhere along the line, Senate Republicans are meeting with Donald Trump, trying to figure out how they can win back the Senate. Oh yeah, let's go to the biggest loser in the world. Let's go to him and talk to him about how we can lose once again, not win the Senate and lose some more seats. How we can have it. Did you guys forget about the insurrection that I orchestrated? They must have, because I guarantee among those senators looking for redemption in the Trump camp is definitely Lindsey Graham, because we know he's a little. I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it. I already cussed enough. With that said, we have a wonderful show for you guys tonight. Let me reintroduce you to you guys, Mr. Harrison Tuttle, and introduce my new friend, Mr. Miguel Sanchez. Hello, guys. How you doing today?
Good, thank you, Dion. Dion, thank you for having us on.
Hey, what's up, Dion?
Nothing much. So let's talk about this gentleman first. The 44-year-old Rowan was caught on a hot mic using profanity laced slur for kneeling during the national anthem during the last Thursday night's playoff game between Norman High School and Mid City High School. Rowan apologized for his remarks, saying, open quote, "I'm absolutely speechless for my rhetoric. I want to offer my deepest apologies to these girls because I hurt them. I want to take ownership of my actions," he added. "Never my intention to hurt anyone. I'm sickened by what I said. I am so sorry for what I said. I will state that I suffer from type 1 diabetes, and during the game, my sugar was spiking."
Is this a high school basketball coach?
This is a high school basketball announcer.
Oh, announcer. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's completely. I mean, honestly, I don't know which is more of a joke, blaming diabetes on using profanity or being able to publicly say that on the air. It's just it just shows that, and I'm not privy to what happened. I'm assuming he got suspended. I'm assuming hopefully he got fired. But it just shows that we have a large portion of the country who still feels like they need to uphold white supremacy to the level in which it obviously went to. And so that's what happens when you have Donald Trump as a president. That's what happens when this country's history is marked with white supremacy, and a majority of the systems that are still here still uphold white supremacy. So you
I,
know
I, I totally agree. I totally agree with you on that. You know, when when you have a country that starts out from colonialism, pushing people out, forcing their extinction to a population, indigenous population that was already here, and enslaving another group, taking another group of people from, and unfortunately, this is the systems that are expected. This is the type of rhetoric that shouldn't be expected, but unfortunately, me sometimes I just expect it, and it's sad to
right.
say that I expect it.
and
So.
for all the progress that we have made, which is like not
Mm-hmm.
saying much because we've gone from being enslaved to being second class citizens to being systematically killed off. But it's still, if you take a bird's eye view of this country, I mean, this is what's to be expected. I mean, there wasn't really a point in time in which the United States created a culture or created systems in which black people or any people that it wasn't the Caucasian race mattered. And so what this is to be expected, and that's one of the things that obviously we work to change, but it's definitely something that is culturally a problem, and it's upheld by the systems that we live by.
No, yeah, I think it's honestly sad. It's not definitely not surprising. It definitely makes your blood boil a little bit. Especially everything that's been going on the past like year at this point now. With all the uprisings, it definitely shows you that there's still a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of people that are still comfortable, unfortunately, using that rhetoric, and I think it just motivates us to keep fighting every day when we see stories like this in the news.
Oh, I mean, definitely. I think it definitely it continually motivates, like, especially when I look at young people, like both of yourselves, and I say young, even though I'm young, relatively young. You guys are are a lot younger than I am. But when I see young people like yourselves and Corey Jones really involved in change, and not just taking the backseat, but taking the lead on many projects. We're going to get down to it a little bit later today. It brings me hope, and hope that in the future, maybe I may not see it in my lifetime, but maybe in when I have my children, my children's lifetimes, and my grandchildren's lifetime, they can see a better world, kind of what we've seen because of the fight, because of our grandparents and their parents. But the superintendent of schools of Norman Public Schools had said, "We condemn and will not tolerate the disgusting words and attitudes of these announcers. This type of hate speech has no place in our society, and we are outraged that it would be directed at any human being, and particularly at our students." I feel like that's a good, swift response. Since then, he has been relieved of duty of his announcing duty. So I think that's a swift response. But for me, it's just disgusting that you blame it on that your sugar was spiking or whatever it was. At the end of the day, like I said, I have two grandmothers who have diabetes, and I made the joke about giving them a cookie, but it's not even about that. It's seriously about a disease in someone's body that, yes, if they don't have the proper levels, sometimes their mind is disordered and things like that. But you blatantly called them when you saw them taking a knee, and the proper thing that he said was "fucking niggas." So
yeah, that's unacceptable.
completely. So some other things that have been going on with everything. Immigration, a huge number of unaccompanied minors have been crossing the southern border, and now FEMA has been called in to set up temporary shelters for the children until Health and Human Services can find a more suitable situation. Is it a far cry from putting them in cages? It's a far cry from putting them in cages, but still, do you guys think this is the best solution?
I mean, Joe Biden, and this is pretty consistent with, every single president for the most part. They'll call it different names. For example, like, I don't know what Obama called it, but like, so they're doing the same thing. And what we see is we see, no matter what policy, or no matter what party you are, the United States is absolutely anti-immigration. And so they are still putting people in these, basically prison camps, and they're calling it a different name. And the reality is that because it's not Trump, some people are turning a blind eye. But that still does not change the fact that people come to America for a better life, whatever that may be, but a better life, and being able to have some other opportunities that their country may not have, and that's being denied. And oftentimes, we only choose to pay attention to that, or the general public only chooses to pay attention to that unless it's goes against their political party or whatever. So it's still an issue. Immigration is absolutely still an issue. I'm sure Miguel can talk a little bit more in detail about this. Go ahead, Miguel.
No, thank you, Harrison. This subject does touch a little close to home. As a person of Mexican descent, I see myself a lot in these children. My grandparents all came here from Mexico, back in the '60s. So like Harrison said, I think that Obama, he actually deported the most people in the history of deportations here in the United States. So it's definitely always been an issue. We immediately need immigration reform. To what that reform is, I don't have all the answers. There definitely needs to be more discussion. But like Harrison says, that sometimes when we do have a Democratic president, you won't see them labeled in the news as children in cages. Sometimes they like to call them as detention facilities. They like to use that word a lot. But no, that what's happening right now at the border definitely is a human crisis that definitely needs more attention, immediate attention.
Yeah, at the end of like I've always said, at the end of the day, how can America be against immigration when you forced immigration in this country through colonialism, through slavery, through through many things, many ways they have forced um, immigration. But I feel as though immigration is only good when it benefits the 1%. Dare I say it? And it just bothers me that I sit there, like, at the end of these are children. No matter which way they want to call it, how you look at it, if it's children in cages or detention centers or just setting up tents, it is what it is. You're imprisoning children for trying to seek asylum in a country for a better life.
And it's the whole idea that, someone outside of America's life is less valuable than someone in it. And that's a culture of US exceptionalism. And that's a culture that, we have been taught in school that, oh, yeah, those people in the Middle East, yeah, they got bombed, but yeah, they're terrorists, so it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
That is, we have to change the way we are wired when it comes to how we treat other people, because that's what they are. And if any, person came to your door seeking refuge, I would hope that you would answer the door. But apparently, we go by different rules if somebody is coming from a different culture.
Harrison and Miguel. The funny thing about this is, like, the same people that when we talk about helping people outside the country, we're like, no, we need to help Americans first. And then when we talk about, hey, all right, let's help Americans then, and they say, no, that's socialism. Like you, I don't get it.
Right.
You know what I mean? I really don't get it. Like how, like, like you don't want us to help people that seek asylum here, but then when we say, okay, let's help Americans, you don't want to help Americans.
No, yeah, that is a funny point that a lot of people do just come under fire for. That's kind of like the whole people on the right wing where they're pro-life, but then when you want to do Medicare for all, they're against it. Like you gotta pick a side. It's very contradicting. It doesn't make much sense, Dion. But I mean, I think just educating those people, try to having conversations. That's the thing. A lot of people in this country are very capitalistic minded, and I think also it does start with our education, though. What kind of history are we teaching our youth in our elementaries right now? Not whitewashing.
I'm going to cut you off. I'm going to push pin you there because we have to go to commercial. Okay? We're going to pick up right where you left off because you just started talking about education. We're going to push pin right there. Okay. But guys, go get yourself something to drink or whatever, water, whatever. I'm drinking water out of the Batman cup.
Government hasn't worked for working families like mine. I know what it's like to see an eviction notice, to work a minimum wage job. My first one was at the age of 12, working to support my family. My dad was a social worker. My mom was a home health care aide. No matter how hard they worked, they struggled to make ends meet for me and my siblings. And unfortunately, my story isn't that unique. It's familiar to Pennsylvanians all across the Commonwealth. Working families from Philly to Erie, from Scranton to Johnstown, from Bethlehem to Uniontown are resilient and leaning on one another. But Pennsylvania and America are at a crossroads. After 4 years of division and just over a month since a failed coup at the United States Capitol, we face a question of who we want to be as a country. But we also face a recognition what's been broken has been broken for more than 4 years. We have to answer the question at the heart of every campaign. Who should government work for? We need policies that actually speak to working families and lift them up. We have to choose. Are we going to go down the path of darkness? Or are we ready to bring a new day to Pennsylvania? A new day that demands we acknowledge how out of reach the American promise has been for too many of us. A new day where we confront head-on challenges in healthcare, in climate, in gun violence, and poverty. A new day where we don't just talk about justice, but we make it real in our lifetime. A new day where no matter who you are, who you love, how you worship, you get a fair shot.
It's time for a new day, Pennsylvania. I'm Malcolm Kenyatta, and I'm running for the United States Senate.
Last month, including hosting a successful fundraising event with guest speakers from George Floyd's family explaining the movement. Formed an incredible team of people that will continue to work hard towards pushing this pack forward. And started our political nonprofit, Time to Run, an online candidacy training academy.
And we're back. Welcome back, everybody. I hope you got your message. But before we went to break, Miguel was passionately speaking about the importance of education, tying it into immigration. Miguel, I'm you on that.
No, yeah, I was just no, yeah, I was just going into
Sorry about that. Sorry about that. I had a little background noise. I turned my little heater on because I got a little cool here. But when you were talking about immigration, connecting it with education, at the same time. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think understanding, you were kind of getting touched on it, how America was founded, and a lot of people say that it was started on freedom, and that's true to an extent. But let's not forget that it was also started on violence at the hands of the indigenous community here in North America. So I think kind of just touching on the base and understanding the real history, exactly how the United States was founded, and then knowing exactly who immigrated here and why they immigrated here, and then kind of using that perspective to understand why people, black and brown people, are still immigrating here. They're either fleeing violence, corrupt government. Also, they're just coming here for more opportunities, kind of like a lot of white people did 300 years ago.
Right, right. I totally agree with that. You know, you know, at the end of the day, like I've always believed as a former educator that you know, if we teach the true history, what really happened, you know, not just the winners, the side of the winners. We tell the true history, then everybody's mind can be freer. We start respecting and part of teaching that history, I think, is also teaching culture at the same time. Because once we understand each other's culture, then we can break down barriers of stereotypes, of prejudice, and racism. Um, so yeah, I so speaking of like education, I'm always talking about political education, and I always want to educate my viewers and talk about it. So Harrison, last time you were here, we talked a little bit about time to run .org. Uh, let's talk about that a little bit more today because I think it's important that we try to get more young Black and Brown people qualified and educated to vote. I mean, they're qualified, but educated to run for these positions.
Yeah, absolutely, Dan. Time to Run is a political nonprofit that we started. Me and Corey Jones started with the idea that we have this PAC, but we also want people to be able to run for office and also become civic leaders. And with the idea that, we don't want to be the only person, or, we want people to be able to become politically educated on a variant of things when that comes from, running for office specifically. What we are working on is a expedited training course in which it lasts 6 to 15 minutes long, in which there's this animated video of, let's say, a politician going through the process of being elected, and talking a little bit about the process. So, for example, when let's say Miguel is running, and obviously Miguel knows this, but let's say Miguel, for an example, since we're going through the process and you're an example. If Miguel was to run right for office, there would be a situation in which he would look for family and friends, right? And that would be his network to where he would raise money. What we wanted to do is we wanted to expand that network and use data and be innovators in a field in which there is a large progressive movement throughout this country. And so if we can be able to reach out to those people, let's say in Michigan or California or anywhere throughout the state, that is how we would be able to have a more effective campaign for people, for Black and Brown people who may not have, the wealth that is available to the typical politician who, has something along those lines.
Hmm. And that makes sense because one big thing I've always find with new candidates is resources and having access to those resources, and a lot of times you have to have the finances in order to do to get to, to
Mhm.
get the
Right.
information that you need in order to effectively run a good campaign. For example, you need people to knock on doors. You need people to enter data. You need a data system, a system to use. You need maybe a campaign manager or a field director to run effectively, make sure things are ran. Someone to schedule things. You need people. It costs money. You need signs.
If I could say something, Dion, this is something that, we're just kind of piggybacking off of what Jennifer has done, what she's done with the political co-op and the great, amazing work that she's done. I mean, what she has done for this state is, historic.
Oh,
And so,
I
so
agree.
what we're
I
just
agree.
doing is we're just going and following her lead as she has, been pivotal to the progressive movement here in Rhode Island.
Yeah, she, and Jennifer, Miguel, I'm not sure if you know who we're talking
Yep.
about. Jennifer, and I've had her here on the show. Great friend of mine, wonderful. She was one of my Dion and guest friends here one night, and the great thing, and like I always said, the work that the Rhode Island Political Co-op is doing, collaborative co-op is doing, um, is important in our state. And the amount of seats that were won in the state, I can see next year in 2022, more seats being won and more young people, more people of color getting in those seats, getting in those ways, and watching dare I say it, the state house move from this moderate uh, type of thinking to a more progressive type of thinking. And which I think is important. I think it's important at this point in the state. And I think we could be the callus for the country. you know,
No, for
Miguel.
real. No, shout out to Jennifer and the rest of the organizers at the Rhode Island Political Co-op. I work with some of the other organizers behind the scenes, and the work that they've done for real is very respectable, very admirable. They got national press on the organizing that they did. So that's just kind of testimony to all the great work that they're doing. I'm excited to see what they're gonna do in 2022.
So, let's redistricting is happening this year, right? And this ties. I think this ties in, and I think 10 years ago, 10 years ago, when I was a younger man, I remember going to I remember going to we were at the Met High School, the city of Providence. They had their committee talking about the redistricting and how the ward map was going to change. And that was 10 years ago. This is something that happens every 10 years. Let me just, for the viewers out there who don't know what redistricting is. Redistricting in the United States is a process of drawing electoral district boundaries, and congressional act enacted in 1967 requires that representatives be elected from single member districts, except when a state has a single member representatives, in which the state won in which one statewide at-large election be held. But the point of redistricting is one, to help the electoral college, and in the redistricting they're going to change the ward map. Harrison, why is this important?
Yeah, Dion, this is incredibly important, especially considering the fact that we have, and me and Miguel are fighting in this progressive movement, as well as you, of course, in which, win numbers in different wards are incredibly important in the relationships that we build with these communities, specifically in Providence, really affect elections, seeing that, the change comes from the people. And so I'm not going to jump to any conclusions, But I would say that we as a people definitely need to be looking out on who is doing the redrawing of the ward maps, because if in the wrong hands can become a serious situation in which the progressive movement and minority communities are not going to be represented as well. Not to say that they are already, but it would probably be significantly worse. And to say that there wouldn't be an effect would be, and they wouldn't try, the establishment wouldn't try to do that, would just be ahistorical. So that's something that, I would say that in the next couple of weeks, anybody who's watching should keep an eye on.
I remember 10 years ago, Councilman Davion Sanchez, who's a really good friend of mine, was the councilman of Ward 11, and the redistricting had happened, and they redistricted Ward 11. They redistricted Ward 1 into the Jewelry District, which used to be the Ward 11, which is downtown. And Councilman Sanchez was the youngest council person. I had the largest section for ward, and the ward made sense on why he had it when you actually look at the ward that he had. One of the rules was they could not go across a body of water, and they redistrict one right over the Providence River, which was technically against the charter rules, but they still did it anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they like to break their own rules when it benefits them.
Right. And I spoke upon that, Dion, last week when it comes to systems that uphold, control and white supremacy. And those are just examples of, we have to look at it from a tactical point of view. If we were trying to uphold power of any kind, and we did not have the best intentions in mind, what would we do? And we know that there is a huge progressive wave. We know that there are leaders in this area, and unlike any time we've ever seen. And so to jump to the conclusion that someone that is going to try to maintain power would not try to do something to disrupt the progressive movement, I would think that that's pretty ignorant. So we have to find out who's doing this, and we have to find a way to hold this person accountable. And if we find anything on this person who is doing this, we may have to put public pressure on Dan or whoever is running this process to find someone who is more democratic of this process.
Agreed. Miguel, you were about to say something.
No, I was just gonna echo what he said. Definitely organizing, building coalitions now, just in case. Most likely it's gonna not be in our favor, the redrawing. That usually tends to happen a lot. But no, definitely just start organizing now, so we are prepared when that happens, for sure.
I mean, if I'm not mistaken, in some way the process has already began. There should be some hearings on it. We should hear about hearings at the municipal levels, so people can give public comment, things like that. When that does happen, we will work really hard here at the Progress Report, at the Progress channel, to make sure people get that information, because at the end of the day, you guys listen. A lot of my viewers, a lot of my friends out there, you guys know how passionate I am about people getting out to vote and the voice being heard. We see it all the time, voter suppression trying to happen all across this country. And redistricting, in my opinion, is another way to try to silence people's voices by putting districts or not putting districts together that don't make sense. That don't make sense.
Right. And this is like a situation in which, in this state, it's democratic. It's a Democratic Party state. And what you see is you have Democrats versus Democrats, right? And so oftentimes we don't think that, just because it's a Democrat-run city that, there isn't issues of corruption and upholding these bad systems. And, oftentimes that is how we get hurt the most.
All across the country, we see Republicans introducing bills to reduce the access to the poll.
Right.
I mean, again, here we go again. Like years and years, we can go history. My grandmother can talk about it. History on history, finding ways to, again, suppress the unheard.
Right.
But then when you do that, I mean, and then they're going to be upset when they're having riots in the street again and civil unrest again because you don't want to hear us. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too
The
passive
whole thing
sometimes.
that's going on with
The fact that election day is on a Tuesday, like I think we're the only developed country that doesn't have elections like on a weekend or it's a national holiday. Like just like that basic
How
principle.
about an election week? How about having election week? Okay, 7 days, Monday through Sunday. You can go in any time during that week to go put your vote in. You know, is that why not? Why not? Why does it have to be this one day? And then why would you want to put ways when we find ways so people can get involved? You look at the last election was our largest election this country has ever seen percentage wise. Why would you want to get rid of that? Why? Why would you want to get rid of that? But we got to go to commercial, guys. We got to go to commercial, and we will be right back for more topics.
For the next full spin, we're bringing you a visual album of non-stop drag set to Dua Lipa's Future Nostalgia. Join us on Tuesday, March 9th at 9 p.m. Eastern, hosted by Magenta with a J, and featuring Ophelia Hotass, Anomalia, Sapphire Feliciano, Toast, Ubi Aaron, Avery Goodlay, Degrassi Knoll, Tiki Vante, Zad Gravebone, Missy Steak, Amanda Massacre. We'll also be raising funds for City Life Vida Urbana, fighting for social justice and helping people stay in their homes. So join us for Dua Lipa's Future Nostalgia on Tuesday, March 9th on Magenta with a J's Twitch channel.
My name is Brian Sims, and I'm running for Lieutenant Governor. I think every day about the values that my Army officer parents instilled in me, to take responsibility, to show empathy, to have courage, and to be authentic. I want to put those values to the direct service of the Commonwealth. I have a lot of hope when I look at the people across the country that decided over these last number of years that they'd had enough, that they looked at a lack of leadership and thought that they could do better, because oftentimes they're right. We are the antidote to broken politics. My time in the Pennsylvania legislature has taught me a lot about not only how Pennsylvania government works, but a lot about how it doesn't. It's taught me a lot about how to work with people who don't always agree with me. I think it's time for me to take what I've learned in the House and to be able to bring that leadership to the direct service of the governor. I want to be your next lieutenant governor. We need adults in the room, and I want to bring bold, visionary leadership based on lived experiences and shared values to the Commonwealth.
All right, everybody, we're back, and I'm literally enjoying this conversation. To be honest with you, it's not too often where I can just have like a real intimate conversation. Usually, we're like loud, boisterous, things like that, which is beautiful. I like to have these type of conversations. So I want to kind of switch gears right now. Marijuana, cannabis, weed, sticky, icky, the ganja, Mary Jane, the Buddha, the good Buddha, or as my grandmother liked to call it, reefer. It looks like that the state's going to take a path in legalization. Do you guys think this is going to happen finally, or are they just blowing smoke?
I think so. I think so. It's gonna happen. I know in the past, something that held it back was leadership on the House, and The leadership's still the same, but same people. But directly, Mattiello, I think, was the super person that was against it. I think now that he's gone, and it's 2021. Like, as a democratic state, just Rhode Island is so behind in having recreational marijuana legalized. I think it's time. I think there is enough public pressure. I think with the new governor, and the new people in the Senate and the House, I think it will be passed this year. Honestly, pass in an equitable way? I don't know. That's the question that we can get into, though.
Yeah, we must whenever the talk about legalization of marijuana comes up, we must talk about the people who are most affected by the incarceration of marijuana, right? And really, it's all drugs, but marijuana, since this is a specific issue, right? And I see you smiling over here, Dion, so I'll let you take it after I'm done. We have to find. We have to, if marijuana is going to pass, we have to find a way to not only expunge the records of everyone that is incarcerated by marijuana. That's like the number one thing. Like, honestly, like that's the most important thing I care about. And then number two, what we have to do is we have to make it equitable for the communities that have been affected by the most. And one of those ways is Black businesses getting, however, these policymakers want to do it, whether it's through a percentage, whether it's through money up front. We need to be able to, make it equitable for Black people and affordable. We can't have a situation in which, it costs $10,000 of a loan or X amount of money that is not affordable for someone who wants to start a business. And if I can go further, I would say that the money that is used for the legalization of marijuana should go directly tied to going back into our communities to help us the most. Whether that's through community programs, whether that's building better infrastructure that's already there. We must try to use the money of marijuana to be able to build out our communities to make it better. And that starts with, making addiction a mental health crisis instead of a crime.
I agree with that at 100%. At the end of the day, when you look at legalization of marijuana and you hit it right on the head, we have to take a look at how many people who have been incarcerated because of marijuana. Period. We have to take a look at how it has affected a community as a whole. And again, you said it, hit it right on the head. Equity. What is the community going to get back? What are we going to get back to fix and to start mending? Is it going to be through education? Is it going to be through infrastructure? Is it going to be through programs to help people get out of addiction? What is it going to be, and how are you going to do it? And at the same time, and I when we do these programs, the accountability of the allocation of the funds to make sure it's going to the right places is important at the same time. Miguel?
No, I absolutely agree with everything you guys are saying. I just have two main points I just want to touch on. The first one is Uprise. They have a podcast called Uprising on Spotify. That's where I listen to it. And they actually had a cannabis marijuana episode today. And they had a woman named Sherry Cruz. She's part of like the formerly incarcerated Rhode, and I think they launched a new campaign called Yes We Can Cannabis (RI). And she emphasized on the expungement part. But the thing that I never really thought about or looked at it was a lot of people that get tagged with these marijuana records at a young age. For whatever reason, they also get tagged with resisting arrest or disorderly conduct for no reason at all, other than having weed on them and being a person of color. So when we talk about expungement, we not only need to talk about expungement of those weed records, but also any other charges that were tagged along with those weed charges. So I think we do need to emphasize on the expungement part, on all expungement, automatic, no matter what. And then to echo Harrison's point on equity on business side. I'm also part of an organization called Reclaim here in Rhode Island, and they have a marijuana campaign going on right now, and their emphasis right now is, I'm not sure if you guys have heard of it, is starting marijuana co-ops in our communities. We would be the first in the nation to start something like that, and I think that's a great idea that does need to get a little more light on.
Yeah, and we when we talk about the marijuana that we would get if it was legal, the money that we would get for the legalization of marijuana, we have to think about the people that are not only being expunged of their records, and then what happens to those people when they get out, and that money definitely needs to go into creating programs for them to get their life back on track.
I agree.
And so, oftentimes we, think of, yes, we get them out of jail and now they can start their lives. But the reality is that once you're incarcerated and you get out, you need, a support system. You need to be able
That's
to
the real healing. When you listen, I always said when someone gets out of prison, that's when the real healing begins. I have family members, I have cousins that have been in jail, some short period of time, long period of times, whatever, whatever. But the real healing begins is when you get out of prison, because those same the people that were there, sometimes it may have changed, things like that. That's where the real healing begins. Case in points, one of my cousins, while he was in prison for incarcerated for 19 years, he had lost his mother. So he went from being out here, when he was out here, he had his mother, 19 years, lost his mother, and he had the reality, he said he knew his mother had passed, but the reality of it didn't really hit until he got outside those walls and realized his mother was not here. Not here.
Right.
So that also does. So, I think you guys hit it right on the head when we talk about mental health with this, and all that. Am I all for recreational marijuana being legalized? Yes, because it's going to stop a lot of issues of incarceration to happen in the future, and those other things that you pointed out, Miguel, that get tagged on with somebody who has the illegal amount of marijuana on them. Gina Raimondo is now the Secretary of Commerce, and we have a new governor, Dan McKee. Does this make you guys hopeful for more positive change, or are you concerned we might go backwards?
Yeah, I apologize for the dog in the background. You probably hear.
Fine. We love animals here at the Progress Report.
Regarding Dan, Corey Jones is obviously one of ours, and he's appointed him as a policy advisor on equity, justice, and opportunity. And so looking over Dan's plan that he released and his budget, there are a lot of good things, but there are a lot of things that I disagree with. So we have to go in with the good faith approach in which we work with Dan and not be like, well, I'm not working with him. We have to be able to.
Some of those things, though, Harrison.
Yeah, there was a lot of things from being able to specific, and we're going to put out graphics this week, but there were a lot of things when it comes to lesser or harsher programs that Gina had that Dan is dialing back on. And with the emphasis of small businesses, and I can definitely expand on that when we put out our own graphics and releases on that. Because to tell you the truth, I'm not exactly in a position right now to where I want to talk about it in detail. But maybe Miguel, I don't know if Miguel has looked at it, but Miguel, you can definitely speak.
No, I haven't looked into his budget came out, I think it was 2 days ago. And I think overall it's a little better than what Gina's would be. But regarding your question, Dion, about hopeful, obviously we got to give him the credit where it's due. He did pay Corey to be on his administration, so that obviously gives us a little bit of hope. Having one of us in that administration definitely motivates everyone, all of our friends, the whole team. But I hope, honestly, I don't know. To be honest, we kind of got to see the budget. It's okay. But honestly, I don't know. To be honest, I think time will tell.
Sam Bell actually has a breakdown of the bill on his Twitter, Yeah.
Okay, so we can definitely take a look because I have not. I'll be honest, I have not seen the budget and I haven't seen a breakdown of it yet. But I think you're right with the pot. I mean, already with people who was in his cohort, having someone like Corey Jones, you're hitting. You know that it's a young voice. It's a new voice in Rhode Island. Corey Jones is a new voice in Rhode Island, young voice, and it is a Black voice in Rhode Island. So I think it's very important, and he's a powerful voice, not just in Rhode Island but also in New England. So I do believe
Yeah, I just don't want him. I just don't want this move, and I don't think it is, but I just don't want this move to start a trend of basically, having token progressives, and then being like, yeah, we're gonna have a progressive person, and nothing gets done. And so I really want people to listen inside the state house to Corey Jones, because he is a representation of the progressive movement here in Rhode Island.
I agree. And with that comment, we're going to go to our final commercial, and we'll be back with final thoughts.
Kikipedia, your online guide to LGBTQ plus bars, clubs, and events. Find all the tea on your local gay bars. Home of the internet's most comprehensive digital drag show and virtual event guide. Visit kikipedia.app or dragstreams.com now!
And we are back. I've been enjoying myself having this conversation with both Harrison and Miguel. I see that it looked like Tiara Mack joined the conversation, but I'll hit her up in a bit and talk to her in a little bit. Is she there? Hi, Tiara. I'm so glad you joined us for our final thoughts.
Yeah, sorry, Dion. I am so sorry. Did not mean to leave y'all hanging. I left session and immediately went to grab my glass of wine and have just been sitting on my couch since, but I immediately thought of you. I was like, oh my God, it is almost 9 o'clock. And I knew I had a date with my favorite person in the world, Dion. So here I am.
Oh, we're actually getting ready to wrap it up. If Harrison and Miguel don't mind, if you don't mind, I have a quick question for Senator Matt.
Yeah,
Before we wrap it up tonight, I'm gonna let you wrap it up with this.
Okay.
I know you just got done working. I know you got your glass of wine, but the Rescue Rhode Island Act.
Yeah.
That is some pretty intense series of legislation. Give us some details on the act and how will it affect our communities.
Yes, so the Rescue Rhode
Yes,
Island
so the
Act,
Rescue Rhode
two
Island
of the
Act,
bills were
2 of the
heard last
bills were
night. I will
heard
speak
last
on the
night. I will
one that
speak on the one that I
am
am
sponsoring, which
main
is the green
sponsoring, which
justice
is the
zones.
green justice
And that
zones.
bill will
And
do
that
three
bill will
things.
do 3
One, it
things.
will
One,
close
it will
down and ban
close
all
down
major
and ban
polluters
all
in
major
the port.
polluters in the port.
Just last week,
Just last week, there
an
was
explosion
an
from an
explosion from
unearthed
an unearthed
submarine that left
submarine
off
that
huge plumes of smoke in the port area. And so we don't want anything like that else to happen. There is also in the past, in 2018, there was 11,000 gallons of volatile fuel that leaked into this community. In 2017, in March, there were 2 horrifying instances where there were, again, environmental catastrophes that happened. So this would shut down all major polluters in the port area. And then 2, it would set up a community-led board that would then allow the community to decide how they spend $20 million a year on remediating some of the worst effects of environmental racism, including removing lead pipes, removing lead paint in communities, and making sure that the air quality is returned to a safe limits for the folks who live there. And then the third thing that this bill does is it also sets up jobs. So we're going to be closing down tons of people's places of work in the port area, but we're going to be making sure that when we close down jobs that are not sustainable for the next 50 years, that we're putting them in job training for jobs for the next 50 years. We're putting them in green, sustainable jobs so that we can make sure that they are trained in jobs that are going to be able to provide them with a great salary, quality benefits, and that are going to last for the next 50 years. And that includes installing solar panels, that includes transitioning our communities to renewable fuels like wind turbines, etc. And we also are going to be, there is in the legislation a piece to partner with the Department of Labor and Training to make sure that these folks are getting trained for free so they don't have to go back to school. We're paying them while they're in this training program for up to 2 years with the same exact salary that they left with. So we're making sure that we're like, hey, you no longer can work in this job that will literally not be legal in the next 10 years or sustainable. Like fossil fuels are going away, honey baby. We are going to make sure that you are transitioned to a job that you can sustain your family, and it's guaranteed to have the same exact salary and benefits that you currently have.
Talk to me about that. Come on now, girl. That's what I'm talking about. So obviously you're going to need people. Obviously, guys, get out there, call your senators, call your reps, call them up, tell them, that, listen, we want this legislation to go through. We need this legislation to go through, especially I'm hearing of good environmental health quality things coming out of it. We need this bill. Senator Mack, thank you so much for coming in. Normally we do final thoughts and each and every individual gets final thoughts, but unfortunately we're about to be overtime, and I can see, I don't see him, but I can see Chris in the background. So I'm going to give one big final thought on behalf of everybody. Thank you so much, Miguel. Thank you so much, Harrison. Thank you so much, Tiara. And the final thought is, like, you know what? Sometimes life gives you lemons and you gotta make beef stew, okay? With all that said, good night, Rhode Island.